Today we're going to speak about protecting yourself against fraud. This program is made possible from the FINRA Investor Education Foundation through a Smart Investing at Your Library grant that the Salt Lake County Library System wrote in partnership with the American Library Association. My name is Shauna LeBeau, and I work as the Finance Program Coordinator at Utah State University Extension, and I will be the instructor for this class today. We do also want to pay special recognition to the FINRA Investor Education Foundation. Much of the video, data, and graphics that you will see in the presentation come from them, and we appreciate their willingness to share that information with us today. What is fraud? A lot of times we hear about fraud and we think it's never going to happen to us, or maybe we'll have an experience of somebody that we know that comes to mind. But just in short, fraud is dishonest or hurtful actions designed to take advantage of someone. Fraud can happen in a number of ways. It could be with money, property, jobs, or investments. Today we're going to learn about ways you can protect yourself against fraud, different types of fraud that are out there, and then steps or agencies and organizations that can help you if you or someone you know has become a victim. The costs of fraud are great, especially here in the United States. Based on some research that the FINRA Foundation did, it's estimated that $50 billion is lost a year to fraud, but that's not the only story. In addition to the economic and financial damage that happens, there's also an emotional side effect to fraud that often is ignored. But as a victim of fraud, you feel this, and a lot of times these emotions are very internal, and it's going to affect your ability to sleep, maybe to function properly at work or in other daily activities that you have. At least 2/3 of the fraud victims report feeling these severe emotions. 50% said they had a severe increase in stress. 44% of fraud victims reported high levels of anxiety. 38% of those, so just over a third of those victims, had difficulty sleeping, and then 35% of fraud victims reported severe problems with depression. So just know that besides a financial hit, there's other things that could happen kind of behind the scenes, and your life could be altered very significantly or drastically, depending on what type of fraud you become a victim to. Who is at risk? We're going to go through, and in this portion we'll watch a video and kind of just have a discussion about who's at risk for fraud. A lot of times we think, oh, I could never become a victim because of X, Y, or Z, but I think you'll be surprised by some of the research the FINRA Foundation and other social researchers have found. I want to ask the question, who's at risk? Victims of investment fraud have which of these characteristics? They're female, they don't have any college education, they're below average financial literacy understandings, they perhaps live alone. What answer would you choose? I want you to think about that just for a second. I think you'll be a little bit surprised by the answer. The people who usually fall victim to investment fraud are actually none of these. We're going to take a minute here to watch a video that the FINRA Foundation put together by an actual fraud victim, and I think his name is Steve. So we'll go ahead and watch this clip right now and then refer back to it here shortly.
Table right there.
Lunch at Bilbo's Barbecue outside of Atlanta. The ribs are hot, the tea's sweet, the table's full. Local stockbroker Steve Sampler is taking a client to lunch, advising on the menu. This part of the country is fairly conservative, and that reflects Steve's own advice to clients. Build wealth safely. Nothing too risky. But Steve does not take his own advice. Steve recently lost $40,000 in an oil and gas scam, purchasing unregistered shares in non-producing oil wells.
If it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone.
He's right about that. Steve is a licensed professional stockbroker, smart, with 2 degrees, accounting and marketing management. But he was taken in by a con man with a telephone.
Of course, they did say that they really hated for me to miss this opportunity, and I would probably never get this type of opportunity again.
The con used an old trick, scarcity, telling Steve there were only a few units left to invest in and he had to move quickly. He'd make 10 times his investment. Steve did not bite at first, but the calls continued, week after week.
as I began to talk to him more, and of course he knew basically he was wearing me down.
Steve began to know and like the salesman. A big mistake.
Everyone has a tendency to trust people. Once you get to know them, particularly, you want to trust them. You don't want to think bad of them.
It's not going to happen in the first call. It's going to happen after months and months of doing business with that person, that you're going to be endeared to the personality and share intimate things about your life with them. When somebody starts taking you down that personal lane and asking you about memories and asking you about what makes you tick, they're doing what I'm telling you I did, which was set up my arsenal for the close.
The salesman I dealt with, I knew all about his family, his wife, his children, where he lived.
Steve sent $20,000 in and received official-looking securities and did some due diligence.
I talked to the district manager in Dallas. Oh, yes, there are 15 wells out there. Everything was just right in place.
So he sent in another $20,000, and it was gone. The shell company liquidated, shut down by the authorities.
He's your friend, but then one day, he disappears.
Still, how and why does a professional like Steve fall for this?
The older I've gotten, the more risk I'm willing to take for some reason. But you know, I think what that stems from is I'm not where I thought I should be at this point in life. Oh, I'm trying to hit home runs.
Steve, like so many investors, was trying to play catch-up, an all-too-common tendency among mature investors. He wanted to hit one out of the park.
Home runners strike out more often than the base hitters. And that's what happened to me. And that's what will happen to anyone else that is not very careful, especially today.
Okay. So from that video, I think we can glean a lot of different information. Steve was an investment professional. He had 2 college degrees, and he actually advised and helped families make investments. So he kind of made the assumption that he wouldn't become a victim. He thought for a time he was doing his due diligence, only to find that the company had been liquidated and shut down by the authorities. So in short from that, I want you to realize that anyone can become a victim of fraud. While research would indicate that investment fraud happens more often with males who are financially literate, college educated, and approaching or in retirement, anybody could be a victim of this. Where on the other end, lottery fraud victims are more typically single, older consumers, and those with lower levels of education and income. They're hoping to hit it big, to maybe give $1 for a lottery ticket or $2 for a sweepstakes in the hope that they're going to win millions of dollars. So while there can be similar demographics based on research, any one of us could be hurt at any given time. There are a lot of common factors or personality traits among fraud victims. And here in a minute we're going to talk about different levels of fraud. But many times fraud victims are going to own high-risk investments. It could be commodities, it might be a real estate deal where you're thinking you're going to hit it big or you're going to receive high rates of return, perhaps greater than what you would see with a bond or a stock market. Fraud victims are also unable to spot persuasion tactics, and I want to go over what some of those are. Many times victims will rely on friends or family members for financial advice. You go to people that you think you can trust, and you'll kind of take whatever they say at face value, and you don't feel the need to do any extra research. Fraud victims also universally fail to check the brokers or financial investors' backgrounds, and they are more susceptible to open new investments or check. They fail to check investment information when they are opening their new investments. They're not going to open a prospectus, or they're not going to check rates of return or other financial documents on the investment or the project or whatever it is that you choose to invest in. Recognizing fraud is one of the most critical pieces to preventing and protecting yourself and those that you love or that you care about. There's a lot of warning signs of fraud. You might have all of these warning signs in a potential fraudulent investment, or you might only have 1 or 2 of these. If somebody is guaranteeing or making a promise of a return, I guarantee you 15%, or I guarantee you 5% rate of return. They're going to make promises that seem sometimes too good to be true. But a lot of times if we're nearing retirement, we might be a little bit desperate. And so we'll think, you know what, I'm going to take a chance on this. So if you ever hear guaranteed or promise you this, that'd probably be the first step to walk the other way. Salespeople or con artists are very pushy. A lot of times they're trying to rush you into something. They don't want you to be able to stop, step back, and think about it. So we have guaranteed promises and then pushy salespeople. A lot of times with investments that are fraudulent, you're going to have missing documentation. There's going to be account errors or discrepancies in their financial documents, in their financial tax statements and things like that. Things are just not going to add up. They're also going to be unregistered or unlicensed products. Perhaps you thought, you know what, I need to see if this is a registered investment, and it's not going to be when you check on it, but they're always going to have a reason, a response to provide to you why it's not registered yet, or, oh yeah, we're in the process, it's going to be registered here soon. Well, perhaps you could say, you know what, as soon as it's registered, you let me know. A lot of times your fraudulent investments are going to be very complicated strategies. They might start to speak to you about it, and then something's not going to make sense or it's going to be unclear. So rather than admit that you don't understand something, you're just going to kind of turn off your brain, think, okay, yeah, I don't want to let them know I don't understand something because it might make me look foolish. Or maybe to you, you feel stupid and you don't want to ask those questions. Once again, returns that are too good to be true, or promises that are too good to be true, and then products that aren't real. So those are some of the initial warning signs of a fraud or a scam. There's different persuasion tactics that we want you to be aware of as well. And this infographic comes from the FINRA Foundation, and you can pull it up on their website, and I'll provide that website to you here near the end of the presentation. But phantom riches, this is the concept that they're dangling the prospect of wealth in front of you. It's very enticing because it's something that you want but you can't always have. I think everybody, just a human response or a human nature, we want more money always. So these phantom riches, if you're going to hit it big, you're going to be able to go on this vacation, you're going to be able to provide this lifestyle for your family. So be cautious and aware of that. A lot of time con artists are also going to use something called source credibility. Credibility can be falsified very easily. They might wear polished shoes, they might have a great suit or a three-piece suit, they might drive a car, or they might have this home that you think, man, these people must have money, or they must know what they're doing if they are living this lifestyle. So source credibility is a huge one. They might throw out a credential, and you maybe have never heard of it, but you think, oh yeah, that sounds like it could be legitimate. And I'll show you where you can check out credentials here in a minute as well. Social consensus. They're always going to try to get you to buy in that, oh, your friend down the street or your coworker bought into this, or do you know this famous actor or this famous politician, they also invested in this. So they're going to try to get you to believe that a lot of people are signing on to this, and that if you don't buy into it, you're going to miss out. Reciprocity is another persuasion tactic they use. They offer to do a small favor for you in the hopes that you're going to give them a huge favor. A lot of times, I think the easiest way to explain this is with the free lunches or the seminars. Don't ever feel like just because they gave you a free $20 dinner that you then need to turn over your life savings to them. That should be a huge red flag, and you should walk that other way. Thank them kindly for the dinner. Hopefully it tasted well, but then you can get out of there. Scarcity along with the social consensus is another problem. It's a limited number, today only, this week only. If you don't sign on, you're not going to have the chance. So these persuasion tactics are all designed to play on your emotions. It's not so much important that you remember the technical term of these persuasion tactics, but rather the emotions that they convey or stir up in you. Fear, I might miss out, or I might look stupid if I don't do this. Uncertainty or unease. Just be aware of these emotions that you might feel, or perhaps have felt if you have been the victim of fraud in the past. To be aware so you can avoid those in the future. What we're going to do now is watch another film put together by FINRA about spotting persuasion tactics. Some parts of this film are a little bit ridiculous and over the top, but I think it's important. Sometimes when we watch those and when it's excessive or exaggerated, we'll pick up on it a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and watch this film and then talk about some of these persuasion tactics that are used here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you that I have never seen anything that we have ever offered here on the Smart Shopping Network that is getting the response we are getting tonight for the Miracle Shim. Look at that. Isn't that attractive? Now, look at this chair here. A little tipsy, isn't it? You probably have one like it. But you just slip one of these little beauties right under that chair or table leg that's not quite touching the floor as well as the others, and voila, problem is solved. These are the same shims used in the White House, Buckingham Palace, the Taj Mahal has lots of them, and all of Donald Trump's homes too, every single one of them, and he has a lot of them. You know, Princess Diana, it is said, would not sit at a table until it had been specially leveled with Miracle Shims. She had a guy with her, went with her all the time. He had a bag full of shims. True story. You cannot find Miracle Shim in the stores. You just can't. They're not available in stores. They're not available from anywhere but right here, right now, from me. And they're not going to be here long either, believe me. I'm told the hickory now is really selling like hotcakes. So let's take a look at the counter, and whoa, my goodness, over 12,000 sold just since I've been on the air. These sets sold out completely last time we had them on the air, so I'm not surprised by that. We have got Bernie from Normal, Illinois on the line. How are you, my friend?
Hi. I just called to say that I love my Miracle Shims.
Do you now?
I just bought 3 more of them tonight.
Whew, 3 of them?
Yeah, and my neighbor's trying to get through to you right now to buy some.
Well, you better hurry, because I'm told the cedar just sold out.
I bought one for my wife. Our anniversary's coming up.
Well, your wife has herself one thoughtful husband.
Yeah, well, you know, it sure beats buying a new dining room set.
Well, thank you, Bernie, and you know, he raises a very good point, folks. New dining room set, several $100s. For only 5 easy payments of $9.98, as the kids say, that's a no-brainer. But I'm being told now the Miracle Shims are all sold out. They are all gone, except, you know, for this one here, under the chair. Oh, wait a minute, I just thought of another one we've got right under the table here. We'll sacrifice that, but you better call now before it's gone too.
While that film seemed a little bit ridiculous or cheesy perhaps, there's going to be several different persuasion tactics that we can pick out from there. The first one, and we're going to circle these and kind of all go through them, they're going to use scarcity. If you don't buy now, you're running out. They've got the counter down there at the bottom of the television screen that if you don't call within 2 minutes, you're going to lose your opportunity. The 5 easy payments, that is going to be, hey, you can afford this. Do you really need to pay $50 for a piece of plywood that looks somewhat like a Pinewood Derby car? You could perhaps go pick up from your local scout office or your regular hardware store. And then orders today, that idea of the social consensus, that everybody is doing this. He name dropped a lot of famous people, even throwing in royalty there, that they had these in their homes or they would never go anywhere without these. The orders today is 20,000. You don't know if that's really how many they sold, but they're trying to get you to buy in that, yes, we can do this. And then the idea of sold out, we just sold out of our cedar, our pine, our oak, and our hickory. They're trying to get you to rush to buy something really quickly before you have a chance to step back. So that's just one example, albeit somewhat ridiculous, of persuasion tactics, and then you can start to maybe identify those at different seminars or things if you go to those, or what a con artist might say to you over the phone. There are several types of fraud and scams. So there's different persuasion tactics, and then those play into these types of frauds or scams, and I want to make you aware of those now. These aren't all inclusive or comprehensive. Fraud artists are always developing something new, but one of the first ones, or a very common one that comes to mind, is the idea of the pyramid scheme. They promise very high rates of return very quickly. A lot of times with pyramid schemes, it's going to be a very complex commission structure. And that's the difference between a pyramid and a Ponzi scheme that we'll go into here in a second. Pyramid schemes, in order for you to make money, you've got to bring people into this. The more people you bring in, the higher rates of commission that you're going to earn. You focus a great deal on recruiting. So if you bring so-and-so in, then we're going to give you $10 extra or $50 extra. Once the pyramid scheme gets going, it's going to be harder to bring in or find new recruits because everybody in the scheme has kind of tapped their resources through work or through family members or just their general social circles. So once that new recruiting stops, it becomes very, very difficult to start earning more money. Common products that are often set up in the pyramid scheme structure are health drinks or vitamins, health bars or granola bars or nutrition bars, anti-aging creams and lotions, and then cleaning products. There's a number of other products that they can tie into these, but these are just some of the most common ones that you'll see with a pyramid scheme. Our next diagram here just kind of shows you, it's kind of a reverse. So here at the top of the pyramid is level 1, there's 6 people there, there's a little bit of money coming in. As soon as those 6 people can bring in 6 more people, each you've got 36 people, and the funds kind of start rolling in, down to level 5. What started off with just a few people, once everybody, it grows and grows and grows and kind of multiplies, you might have 7,000 or 8,000 people in this scheme, but down there in level 5 you're not going to have as much coming in commissions because they don't know who to sell to. So that is kind of the first scheme or strategy we wanted to talk to you about or just make you aware of. The Ponzi scheme is named after a gentleman whose actual last name was Ponzi. In the 1920s, he was the first one to do this, and he brought in a bunch of different investors and had a very complicated stamp ring. And once the scam kind of fell apart and authorities were able to figure out what had gone on, he had bilked out investors hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so Ponzi comes from the first gentleman, that name comes from the first gentleman who actually ever did this. A Ponzi scheme happens when somebody, they'll start something and they'll promise high rates of return, but they don't have the money to invest with, so they need help. They're going to go out and find investors. They're going to pay those initial investors with new investors that are brought on. So you're not so much paid in commissions, but those new investors, you're taking their money and spreading that out to former investors, and that's where you get this falsehood that this must be doing really well if all of these people are investing or if all of these returns are coming in. The initial people that have been brought into the Ponzi scheme usually receive some type of payback or money. Those people that were brought in last very rarely are receiving money. They're the ones that are funding all of those initial investors. To thrive or to succeed, the Ponzi scheme must have a constant cash flow. Some warning signs of this are high returns with little risks. A general rule of thumb in investing, the higher your chance for return, the higher your chance for loss. So if somebody tells you you could earn 20% on this investment, but you're not going to lose anything, should be your first red flag there to perhaps walk away. Once again, that idea of a guaranteed investment or guaranteed to make money on this. The return or the money you earn always seems to go up. There's no cap on it. So you think, this is great, I'm going to fund my retirement, or I'm going to get to go on this vacation that I've always wanted to go on, because they're telling me I'm going to earn 50% or 100% or whatever that is. If it is too good to be true, I would probably suggest you walk the other way. Another red flag of the Ponzi schemes, almost always they're unlicensed sellers and unregistered investments. If you ask to see a prospectus, they might be able to provide a falsified document, but that's why it's so critical that you go in and check with the Securities and Exchange Commission or with the FINRA Foundation to make sure that these investors and investments are licensed and registered. Sometimes they won't even have paperwork at all. They might just say, oh, you know, it's in process, or oh, it's at our printer, we'll get it to you here shortly. Well, if that is in fact the case, perhaps you could just say, you know what, as soon as I see some paperwork, I'll reconsider. But until then, I would appreciate if you stopped calling or if you didn't contact me anymore. Ponzi schemes are also very secretive and, once again, very complicated. They want to make it complicated so you're hesitant to ask questions because you don't want to look foolish, or you hesitate to make it look like you don't know what's going on. And I feel like that's just a very common human tactic. We don't want people to know that we're not intelligent, or we don't want people to know we don't understand something, so we're not going to ask or push to find answers on these schemes. This is just a graphic. I like graphics. They help me understand some things. So this is kind of how it works. You have your new investors who are going to dump money into this, and you have your Ponzi scheme, your hub or your operator, who's then going to take your money and give it to those earlier investors. So it makes it look like there are rates of return, and those initial investors aren't necessarily going to ask questions. But as long as the Ponzi operator can go find new investors, things are going to work. Once those new investors dry up and he can't trickle down or funnel your money or a victim's money into those earlier investors, things start to kind of fall apart that way. Another type of scam that can occur is called a pump and dump. This is very common with people in the stock market. And how this works is a con artist might start propagating or perpetuating the idea that this penny stock or a stock that's very cheap is really going to take off. So he or she is generating interest in this. So due to the interest that they're creating and this excitement, people go in and they buy this stock for pennies on the dollar, and it's going to increase the price. As soon as that con artist has been able to drive up that stock price to where he or she can make a good profit on it, they're going to sell it and they're going to make a significant return. And then once they've got their return or they've earned their money on it, they're going to walk away. This stock or this company is no longer receiving this marketing or this excitement. So the price is going to drop back down to its market level where it should have always been, and you're going to lose your money, but that con artist doesn't care because they've already received money on there. So if someone is pushing or trying to drive up the price in a stock, that should kind of be a red flag there, especially if the stock or the company consistently has had low rates of return, or perhaps it's never gone above $1 a share. Well, that's where the market price is at. That's probably a fair market price in the free market system. So be careful if someone's trying to generate a lot of business for a particular stock. Another type of fraud that occurs is once again with stocks, and it's advance fee fraud. What happens here is that you're kind of going to get double hit. You might have made mention to somebody that you lost money on an investment. So they'll say, okay, we're going to offer you this higher price for the stock. They already know you lost money on it. You're hopeful you could get something out of it. So they'll offer to buy it from you at a higher rate than it's actually worth, or a higher share price. They'll offer to make you that deal if you send them that money or that fee in advance. Once that fraudster or that con artist has received your money, they're going to disappear. They've then taken advantage of you, or you've lost money on a bad financial decision twice. So if someone's ever offering to do a service for you, but they need an advance payment or they need the fee early before you actually are going to see a turnaround on the investment, that should be an indication to you that it's also a fraudulent service or a fraudulent offer, and you should walk the other way there as well. We hate to see you get taken advantage of twice, but sometimes that happens. Other common types of scams. There's a lot that fall into this bucket called offshore scams. Offshore scams are very, very difficult for U.S. law enforcement and U.S. the regulatory agencies to regulate, because they're things that are happening in other countries. Be very cautious of sending money to people that you don't know or unknown sources. Common scams, a lot of times we'll laugh about it, but they're royalty scams. You'll get an email that says that you're related to a prince somewhere in Africa or a prince somewhere in the Middle East or Asia. If you send them this money, you're going to inherit millions of dollars. Well, once you've sent that initial payment through a wire transfer, they disappear. Your money's gone, they've got you for $100, they're going to go after other people. Unfortunately, a lot of times fraudulent charities will pop up when there's natural disasters. Human nature is that we try to be kind and reach out to mankind, and we're going to send over $100, or we're going to send $5 to help somebody or a victim of a natural disaster. It could be earthquakes, floods, fires, extreme drought. And you think you're doing this good service, but that charity just popped up right when that natural disaster happened. They take your money, never goes to help any of the victims, and then they disappear. So just be very cautious that way. We would encourage you, if you want to take part or participate with a charity, that you kind of do due diligence, do a little bit of research. It's going to take some time out of your day to do so, but you're actually going to know where your money is going once you send it over that way. Affinity fraud is a very common type of fraud, and depending where you live, could happen a lot more. Communities that are very religious or have tight-knit groups often fall victim to affinity fraud. Affinity fraud is when a con artist is going to go in and take advantage of a common characteristic of somebody. One of the images on here says book club. I'm not saying or insinuating that book clubs are bad. Just knowing that usually people that are in book clubs are very close and they share a lot. And it would be easy for someone to come in and kind of take advantage of that. Through the affinity fraud, somebody's going to present themselves as very honest or trustworthy. I'm a member of this group, or I've always been a member of this religion and I would never take advantage of you. You can trust me. So people feel guilty, or they hesitate to turn in the con artists once they realize what's happened because they trusted them. And perhaps you'll feel foolish for trusting somebody. How could I have let them take advantage of me? Or how could I have not seen these red flags? Please do not beat yourself up. These con artists are skilled at what they do. Unfortunately, a lot of them have had years of practice. So just be aware. I actually usually try to make my financial, my personal, and my professional life very different. If someone comes to me, a friend says, I need this money, or if you invest in this, I'm going to be able to do this. A lot of times I'll just say, you know what? I value or I treasure our friendship too much to let finances get in the way of this. I'm not going to invest with you because of that. They might get mad. They might choose not to be my friend anymore. But typically, if that's what our friendship is based off of, it's okay to lose that friend. So just be very cautious if someone comes or presents themselves in a religious setting, a political affiliation setting. Maybe you're at a meeting because your party of choice is bringing together the community, and someone's there saying, we're all part of this party, this political party. We all think the same. We all believe the same. Let's all donate or give me your money and I'm going to help you that way. So just be very, very cautious. A lot of times con artists, unfortunately, will name drop respected leaders in a community to convince others to help them. This actually happened in the community that we live in, or that I live in. They said, oh, this leader in this religious organization is buying into this. Well, come to find out that leader in the religious organization had no knowledge of it. But by the time people had started to figure that out, they'd lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I want to show you just some recent headlines for Affinity Scams. And you can see here that people actually couple Affinity Scams with other schemes, Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes. And these are actual headlines from across the United States. So the first one here, SEC halts pyramid scheme targeting Dominican and Brazilian immigrants. So you can see they're starting to target different or similar groups. SEC charges operators of pyramid schemes targeting Asian and Latino communities. And then the last one, SEC charges Ponzi scheme promoter targeting African American churchgoers. So they're targeting a commonality. It could be your race, your ethnicity. It could be religion, a party. It could be a common professional group or a club. So just be very cautious that way if they're targeting or saying all of the people in this group are doing this. You're going to miss out, or you'll be left out if you don't participate in that. Fraud could also take the form of credit card schemes. They could obtain your credit card or your debit card number to make purchases. They might use an existing account, or they might open additional accounts under your name. If you're receiving a high amount of credit card offers in the mail, you can actually go to a website called optoutprescreen.com, punch in your information there, and stop those credit card offers from even coming in the mail, so you don't have to worry about an offer being stolen. Perhaps your mail comes midday and you're not home from work until 5 or 6, and somebody could walk by and pick up a piece of mail. So to stop those offers, just go to optoutprescreen.com. You could enter your information, you could enter your family's information. I'd probably ask before you go in and start typing in everybody's information there, just to make sure they're okay if you do that. It might be better just to share the website with them, and then they can make that decision on their own. Other ways that people try to commit fraud is they'll impersonate companies or government offices. They could do that through emails or phone calls. Just a word to the wise, don't give out your personal information on the phone or through an email. Kind of a general rule of thumb, the IRS or the Internal Revenue Service and your banks or your financial advisors are typically never going to call you and ask for your personal information. They're going to reach out to you through a letter. They'll reach out to you through the online portal, through a message there just saying, hey, your information might have been compromised, or we want to make you aware of this. So if you're ever receiving emails or phone calls, just be aware that that's a fraud and you're okay to hang up. You can be a little bit rude. I'll give you permission to do that and just say, you know what, I'll reach out to the IRS directly, or thank you, but I'm going to call my bank and I'll address this issue with them. Hang up, maybe block that number or put it in as a do not answer number on your phone, and just go your merry way in life and don't worry about that. What I want to do is show you an actual fraudulent email that went out. Con artists are very efficient and effective of what they do. they are going to bring in, and they can manipulate website coding and things to make their website appear authentic or appear legitimate. This email, they actually copied in the official Visa logo, and they're going to use generally a generic salutation because they're sending this out to hundreds or thousands of people. So, dear Visa customer, this email is to inform you of a recent update we made to our systems. To avoid service interruption, we require that you confirm your account as soon as possible. Visa has your account numbers. Typically, Visa and MasterCard and those large agencies aren't going to have service interruptions. They're going to go in and update, but it's not going to hurt your service. They're going to try and disguise their link or the spot they want you to click on as an official site, visa-secure.com/personal/secure. Kind of a word to the wise, if it's actually a secure website, you should see an S after that P, so it should look like HTTPS, and then the colon, and then go into the official website. They'll give you some steps to fill or follow, and then they're going to have some kind of a statement urging immediate action. If you don't do this, or if you don't take this step, your credit card's going to be disabled. So those are just some things to be aware of there. If you receive one of these emails, I urge you not to click on that link, but exit out, delete the email, and actually go in and log into the portal, or go to your Visa or your bank website and ask them specifically, hey, I got this email, did you guys send this out? And notify them that somebody's impersonating their information so they can make a notice or release kind of a public relations statement to warn other card holders or bank account holders that somebody is trying to impersonate their information or steal their information. If you have fallen victim to one of these scams, I call your card or your bank or your credit union or financial institution immediately. You might need to change your password, you might need to change your username, and then they actually might go in and decide it's probably better to issue you a new card number. So just know there are steps to take if you have fallen victim, and don't hesitate to reach out to them just to verify that way. What can you do, or how can you protect yourself and use the available resources? In this section, we're going to give you several different resources and websites that you can go to. You can pause this screen cast at any time and go back and kind of explore the websites and then come back into it. You might watch this screencast in its entirety, make notes, and then go explore with those websites on your own. These websites, a lot of them are government and nonprofit agencies, and a lot of them are actually put together by the FINRA Foundation and FINRA itself. The FINRA Foundation and just FINRA.org, they're designed there to regulate the financial industry. They do a lot to offer education and provide resources so that the everyday person or just the regular consumer can go in and have access to this. They want to make it public and they want to make it free so anybody can go in and receive those services free of charge. What if you are a victim of fraud? I think one of the most important websites that you can write down or remember is FINRA.org. It's the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. They go in and they investigate investment firms and advisors. If those advisors ever do things that are fraudulent or not in accordance with the laws that regulate that industry, FINRA will fine them. And then FINRA takes those fines and they put them back into grants and education programs that can be used throughout the country to benefit the consumers so that we have access to that. I would also encourage you to contact your Securities and Exchange Complaints Center. This is the actual website, so sec.gov/complaint/select. You can go in there and formalize your complaint. If they're receiving a lot of complaints from a specific region, they then can send out investigators to go after these people. Every state is also going to have a securities administrator, and you can contact your state attorney general's office. Every attorney general's office is going to have a different procedure and process that you can follow, but if you go just to your state's website or call 211 and ask them for the attorney general's office for your state or your region, they're going to be able to provide that for you. Before you invest, before you even take those initial steps, verify the licenses of the investment advisor. Make sure that they're actually authorized and they should be offering or providing these services to you. Ignore them when they tell you everyone's investing or everybody's doing this. Once again, that's a scarcity tactic, or it's a tactic used to design to force you into this through the social consensus idea that if you don't do this, you're going to be the only one and you're really going to miss out here. Take your time and refuse to be rushed. This is your money that you're working very hard for. A lot of times people will liquidate investments or 401ks to invest in this new, bigger and better idea. A lot of times you've had those investments or that money in your investments for several years. So take time, do your research and your due diligence, and never feel obligated. Do not feel guilt for the free dinner or their meal they're giving you. I think guilt is a very common emotion that investment advisors who are not legitimate or those con-artists take advantage of. So if you're ever feeling guilty for not participating or not investing or not donating, walk the other way. Because if it is in fact a legitimate offer, they're not going to rush you into that, or they're not going to play on the guilt. Another thing you can do is protect your sensitive information. That's an image of a social security card that pops up there. But if people gain access to that social security card or that number with your name, they can do a lot of damage. We would encourage you not to use your debit card online because you're not as protected as you would be with a credit card. Never carry that social security card in your purse or wallet. If you need it because you're signing up for insurance or you're applying for a new job, go to that job, and as soon as you get home, put that social security card back where you keep it in a safe, secure location. Try not to save social security numbers or passwords on your phone, especially if somebody has access to your phone or if they know your phone password on the lock screen, because with those numbers they can do a lot of damage. And then lock up other important documents you have. You might have I-9 forms, you might have a visa, passport, a marriage license, or even a birth certificate. You can buy a safe, or you could even just go buy a lock and kind of jimmy rig your own security box for fairly cheap. If you want a fire and a flood-proof box, you can get them at most hardware, office supply, or department stores for between $25 and $40. We think it's a relatively wise purchase that you'll make to put those documents in a safe spot. And then if you ever had to leave your home quickly, you typically have them in that location. You can grab it and carry that out just by the handle, and you're not running around trying to find all of these important documents that you're going to need to put your life kind of back in order if your home were to start on fire, if there were to be a flood or other natural disaster. The websites we're going to share now, a lot of them are actually sponsored by and funded through one of FINRA's agencies. SaveAndInvest.org is a phenomenal website where you can go in and find a lot of different tools and information. This is a screen capture of one of their websites. SaveAndInvest.org is the website. You can go in and play in there. They have an ask and a check feature, and they kind of walk you through what should I ask somebody if they're saying that they're an investment advisor. Ask them, are you registered with FINRA or through FINRA? Are you registered and licensed through the Securities and Exchange Commission? Did you receive your state security regulators' licenses, or does the state authorize you to sell these things? And then they encourage you to always check. So it's not just enough to ask the questions, because anybody could tell you, yes, oh, I am certified, but then go in and check. We're going to walk you through kind of know what to say here. This, once again, is kind of another ridiculous video, a little bit over the top. There's two versions of this, a what not to say and then what to say. So we'll watch both of these and then talk about these, and then we'll give you some more websites that you can go into to do your research and kind of explore. And I would encourage you to check these websites out before you're kind of in the moment, so that when you actually do need to go in and check someone out, you feel a little bit more confident in your ability to do so. Now we'll go ahead and just watch this, the videos.
Hello? Hi there. Hi, is this Mr. Rucker?
Yeah.
How are you tonight, sir?
Good.
I'm good too, sir. Let me tell you why that's funny, Mr. Rucker.
Okay.
My name is Good. Ron Good.
Oh.
It's got an E on the end, so some people pronounce it Goody, but it's just Good.
Yeah.
And may I say, sir, that the news is good, especially for you. Oh, yeah? You might remember you went to one of our seminars a couple weeks ago. I'm just following up on that. I'm a money manager with the Dunkington Fund. I would imagine that name is familiar to you. I mean, you came to the seminar after all. You do remember the name, don't you, sir?
Sure.
Yeah. You are, I should say, sitting on the ground floor of an incredible new equity fund opportunity. I've never seen one like it. Already paying 48% annually, and you probably saw where the Wall Street Journal says it's heading to 70 or 80% territory. You read the journal, sir?
Sometimes.
As you can probably figure, a fund this hot is bringing all the big boy investors like Gates and Buffett running in to snatch it all up.
Right.
We're generally seeing people with annual incomes, I don't know, 100,000 or more coming in on this deal. Is that your ballpark, Mr. Rucker?
Yeah, around that.
I would love, sir, to overnight you some information so you can see the numbers all in black and white.
Okay.
Give you a day or two to look at it, and then I'll see what you think.
Okay. Good.
Okay. What's the best mailing address for you, sir?
I guess it'll be right here to my home.
You and your family live there, do you?
It's just my wife and me. The kids are grown up now.
Whoa. You sound so much younger, sir.
Thanks.
What is that address?
4257 Oak.
That is a beautiful part of town.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
What town is that exactly?
Edgemont, South Dakota.
Okay, yeah. And what's the zip code?
I'm not sure because they changed it a couple weeks ago.
Okay, well, I'll just make a note here that you don't know zip.
Okay.
All right, bye now.
Bye.
Okay, so just before we jump into kind of the right way to handle that call, hopefully you noticed some red flags or some things that didn't quite seem right. The caller there, he tried to kind of make a joke, he tried to be friendly, but you could tell how he said things. It made the gentleman that answered the call, feel a little bit uncomfortable. Almost like, oh, I don't know who's calling me, but he apparently knows me, but I'm a little bit worried to make it seem like I don't know him, or I don't want to come off appearing as stupid or as foolish. So he kind of goes along with it. He doesn't ask the right questions. You notice near the end he asks, oh, where do you live? And he says, oh, I live on Oakmont. And he said, well, that's a beautiful part of town. And then the con artist says, well, what town is that exactly? That should be a red flag. He's acting like he knows you, but then he's asking or pulling out this personal information. When he asked for the zip code, he said, oh, I don't know it. They just changed it recently on us. So that con artist is trying to make a joke, and he comes across saying, oh, well, you don't know zip. That being said, that kind of comes off as, oh, he thinks I'm not as smart as him, or if I don't buy into this, maybe I'm going to miss out on this opportunity. So those are just a couple of things that were not quite right in that call. There are a number of others, and you probably picked up on those, but we'll go ahead and kind of watch the right way to handle this call. So take notes here, and you'll see kind of how he does this in a way to protect himself.
Hello?
Hi there. Hi, is this Mr. Rucker?
Yeah.
How are you tonight, sir?
Good.
I'm good, too. Let me tell you why that's so funny, Mr. Rucker. My name is Good. Ron Good.
And why are you calling, Mr. Good?
Well, I'm a money manager with the Dunkington Fund. You came to a seminar a couple of weeks ago. I'm just following up on that. Dunkington Fund, I imagine that name's familiar to you if you know anything about investing.
Are you a registered broker, sir?
Oh, yeah, we're registered with everybody. In fact, we won an award.
Well, see,
let me ask you a question, Mr. Rucker. Are you interested in making money?
What I'm interested in is getting your registration number and a phone number where I can call you back after I verify things, okay?
Okay, well, you could do that, but by the time you call me back, the opportunity's going to be gone.
Well, I guess you better call someone else.
Okay, some of you might think that the caller was a little bit abrasive or abrupt, but he's more concerned with protecting his information than buying into what this con artist had to say. He asked specifically and directly for the investor number. He wants to know where he's registered from. He didn't buy into the, oh, if you know something about investing, you definitely know about the Dunkington Fund. Maybe he does, maybe he's never heard of it. So don't ever hesitate to ask those questions. Get a number where you can call them back if in fact you find out they are a legitimate agency or an investing firm, and then you can kind of proceed from there. Don't ever hesitate or feel bad for hanging up on somebody. You might wonder, well, how did they get my name, or how did they get my number? Maybe you went to an investing seminar and that's in fact how they got it. Chances are they bought your information from a different website that gathers data. Maybe your name and your phone number are listed in the yellow pages or the white pages, and they just grab that there and then call and said, oh, are you Mr. So-and-so, or are you Miss So-and-so? Just because somebody has a phone number and a name on there, or your name attached to it, doesn't mean they necessarily know you. So don't let them take advantage of that, or act like they know you and play on that idea of the affinity, or we're part of this common group that way. Everyone's going to have their own personality and their own style. You might feel rude for hanging up on somebody, but once again, there is never anything wrong with doing that. Check professional broker checks. So you might be wondering, well, you keep telling me where to or how to do this, or that I need to do this, but what do I do? The most critical website that you can remember to check these brokers is www.finra.org. This is the actual FINRA website on there, and you will see near the top something called broker check. It is in there that you could go in and you could check a firm name, you could check an investing advisor's licensure number, or even just a name. Once you type in either piece of that information, you'll click check, and then it's going to pull up for you their credentials, how long they've been in the investing markets. It's also going to tell you if they've got any disclosures or complaints against them. It will also let you know what exams have they passed. They might tell you that they've passed 10 investing exams. Will you go in and find out maybe they've only passed one? But this professional or designation check is free and available to anybody to use. If you click on the disclosures, it's going to tell you what kind of fraud or what kind of complaint they've had against them. So I would encourage you, before you invest with anybody, go in and check this out. If your employer has provided an investing advisor or broker to you, you can most assuredly go in and check them out and see, are they actually authorized, or are they legitimate? Have they had any complaints or problems against them in the past? Just so you're aware and kind of know what to look for there. Understanding designations. On the FINRA site, there's also going to be, in addition to the broker check, a professional designations section where you can go in and find out what do all of these acronyms mean. This site, or this page, is just for designations starting with the letter C. But there's a lot of different designations that people can earn through continuing education credits, through passing exams, through studying, or even just working in the financial market. So if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I am designated, or I am licensed in this, that is in fact perhaps true, but maybe they're only licensed to issue you bonds and not stocks. So go in and check out their professional designations and find out what those designations actually mean. With the designation, you'll find out what it means, what's required to pass the exam, and then how does it work. So all of that is available through the FINRA.org website. The Security and Exchange Commission is also a government entity or agency that is tasked with protecting and watching over the investing markets. If you go to investor.gov, you can pull up their information, you can do research on managing investing, you can find out about investing basics if you're new to the investing market. You can also give them a call. Perhaps you don't feel comfortable using the internet, or you want to just be able to speak to somebody. So 1-800-SEC 0330 is their phone number, where you can call in and actually speak to somebody if you've got questions or concerns. The SEC website is very comprehensive, and there's a lot of information on there. It's also through SEC that you can go in and file complaints if you need to. The SEC and FINRA work in conjunction and hand in hand. Together you can file complaints on both websites. If you feel like you need to do that, I would always encourage you to file more complaints than necessary than not enough. Sometimes your complaint is actually going to protect another investor. So don't ever hesitate or feel bad for filling out a complaint if you've been taken advantage of. There's more on professionals and products if you go to finra.org/investors. The FINRA website has a comprehensive toolbar near the top where you can go in and hover over Just put your cursor over products and professionals or prepare to invest, and then a comprehensive toolbar is going to come up from there. So you can go in and do a lot of research. FINRA is an independent agency, so they're not going to steer or force you into anything. And just know that the information there is very objective, and their purpose is to protect and provide education. The FINRA Securities Helpline for seniors, this is a special line they've set up specifically to protect senior citizens. Many times our elderly population is taken advantage of because they feel lonely, so somebody will call and start to build a friendship, and then those seniors feel like they need to pay them back, or for their kindness they should do something. There is a website attached to the FINRA.org site you can go to. Many seniors don't want to use a website, so they can call this phone number listed here, 844-57-HELPS, which ends up being 43577 if you're needing to call that. And they are open and available Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you give them a call and you're not closed, just note that they're in Eastern Standard Time, and you might need to give them a call back the next day. Your state, we've got on here the Utah Division of Securities site listed just because we are based in Salt Lake City, but your state should also have a Securities and Exchange Commission located right there. For the state of Utah, it's securities.utah.gov, and our Division of Securities is tasked specifically with protecting investors and the citizens and residents of Utah. They do a lot of education. They have a toolbox in here. You can give them a call or explore their website if you become a victim of fraud. So there's a lot of different places that you can go to receive protection and get help to your questions. Once again, this is another part of the saveandinvest.org website, just under the Protect Your Money. You can go in and you can access alerts and information. You can sign up for a newsletter. You can report problems and then find additional tools and resources as well. So please don't be a stranger to these sites. They're all free and available to the public at any time. If you have further questions, I would encourage you to check with your state Security and Exchange Commission. Go to sec.gov or go in and explore the FINRA Investor Education Foundation site or finra.org, and many times your library might actually have a librarian on staff that can specialize in investing education, or they'll know of resources and locations you can go to if you need additional protection and help. Above all else, if you've ever been the victim of fraud, don't feel like you were foolish, or don't beat yourself up for it. But know if you come forward and if you report what happened to you, you could inevitably save other people from making the same decision or falling victim to that same con artist. Kind of just as a general collective human body, we can all protect and kind of watch out for one another. I would encourage you to have open conversations with your family members. If you have aging parents, make them aware of this. Saveandinvest.org has some phenomenal videos available specifically designed for senior citizens, where you could go in and say, hey mom or dad, or hey my aunt or uncle, or I have an elderly neighbor that you want to share this information with. Let's watch this video, and I just want to make you aware that sometimes people will target you because of your age, or they'll try to come in and be your friend. We don't want you to be suspicious of everybody. We just want you to be aware that you can never be too cautious or secure when it comes to your financial information. And just make this information available and share it if you feel like you need to, because it's together that you'll be able to watch over and protect your friends, your family members, and your co-workers. That being said, we want to thank you for spending time and watching this presentation today. And through the Salt Lake County website, there's other videos and resources available if you need additional help or have other questions.
To learn more or to find a class, visit slcolibrary.org/smartinvesting.